Every day, powerful forces manipulate what you see, what you think, and what you believe. News, television, social media, your very thoughts and feelings are controlled now by corporate elites, politicians, and the tech giants. Think you have escaped their reach? No, you haven't, because no one can.
That's the trailer for Glenn Beck's latest book, Propaganda Wars. And here to discuss with us is the co-author of the book and Heartland Institute Senior Fellow, Justin Haskins. So, Justin, just break this down. Propaganda Wars, what is it? How did this book come to be?
Yeah, so the genesis of this book was about a year ago. We're looking ahead to this exact moment in time, and we said, okay, what is the thing that everyone's going to be talking about? It's going to be the election. The last two presidential elections have been the biggest propaganda events in modern American history, to be sure. Lots of division has resulted from these things, questions about the validity of elections, all kinds of crazy stuff. And we saw the emerging technologies that were coming with AI and deep fakes and social media algorithms and all this stuff, and how those things are going to create even more problems into the future. We said we need to warn people about this, and we need to provide them with the ability to be able to know what's real and what isn't real, what they can trust, what they can't. When it's time to just stop and say, I don't know if this is true, and that's okay that I don't know. I'm going to wait. And so Propaganda Wars is unlike any book that Glenn and I have done together. It gives people actual tools that they can apply when they watch the news to know when they should trust something, when they shouldn't trust something. And then we take in addition to that, we provide a whole bunch of information about what we consider to be sort of the emerging issues that we're most concerned about, like election-related issues, foreign influence in American society, emerging technologies, and other things. So you're going to learn something if you get Propaganda Wars. I assure you of that. It is an incredible book. Glenn and I worked really hard on it, and I'm excited for people to read it.
I love the fact that there's this practical angle to it. So important. So much of what we want to do here with Align and some of the new verticals is talk more about how to do things, practical stuff that people can use. But to talk a little bit more about the problem, because you guys used to talk about the propaganda industrial complex. Yeah. Which is a great phrase. I think all of us, when we hear it, go, I think I know what that is. But it really is a complicated system at this point.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, what's incredible is the more research we did on it, the more complicated the issue became. And at first, I think what a lot of people imagine is, well, it's the media. We can't trust what the mainstream media is telling us, and that's what the propaganda industrial complex is. Or maybe it's the media and government. But it's actually much deeper than that. What a lot of people don't realize is that so much of what goes on in our world today has been dreamed up by nonprofits, think tanks, various groups of people at the United Nations, working hand in hand with corporations and government entities, coming up with wargaming strategies. And this has been going on for years and years and years on all kinds of incredible issues. And we outlined so many of those in the book. One of the most incredible ones that's relative to the upcoming election is the left has been wargaming out a possible deep fake election crisis. What do we do if there's a deep fake election crisis that benefits Donald Trump, that was perpetrated by the Russians? They've got it all the way down to the details of this. What do we do? How do we handle it? And the people who are involved are all incredibly far left-wing, anti-Trump people. They've created a network of so-called election experts. They've gone throughout the country to local election officials and said, if there's a deepfake crisis, you can come to us. You can trust us. We'll give you the truth. And one of the main players behind this is a guy named Miles Taylor. This is a guy who worked in the Trump administration. And while he was in the Trump administration, high level in the Department of Homeland Security, he wrote an anonymous op-ed famously for the New York Times saying he was the head of the resistance inside the Trump administration. And then he wrote a book about it. And then he wrote another book about it. And then finally acknowledged it was him all along. This is the guy who local election officials, people like that, are going to go to get an unbiased take. This is the kind of thing that we break down in the book. It is absolutely incredible what the left has done. The infrastructure is amazing, and we need to be able to fight back against it by knowing what's real and what isn't. We can't trust the experts. The experts are not telling the truth anymore. And so we have to become our own experts in our own lives.
So there's so much out there, but give us just a little piece, because we talk about all the misinformation. There's so much information out there right now. So how are you supposed to figure out what's true and what's not?
Yeah, so what we did is provide people with a step-by-step guide. We give them actual tests that you can run news stories through or pieces of information. So one example, one of the most basic but important examples is the original source test. So when you read something in the news, you see a clip of something, don't just, especially if it's important, don't just assume that whoever the media outlet is giving it to you is being accurate or truthful about it. Go actually look at the quote in context. And the best example of this is the very fine people thing that we're hearing about constantly all the time from Donald Trump.
And hedge fund manager Bill Ackman went on CNBC this morning and he said, it took me all of 2 minutes. I used to be a guy that believed that. And it took me 2 minutes to say, oh, this wasn't what he was saying at all. He was arguing the other way.
Exactly. Go to the original source. And a lot of the misinformation just really comes down to that one simple thing. And then we have a whole bunch of other tests to know whether you can trust someone and whether you should believe what they're telling you or if you need to hold them to a higher standard. One of them is called What is a Woman test. And the idea behind this is if they can't tell you what a woman is, then you can't trust that they're being honest with you about anything else.
That's such a good
So
test.
really simple things that people can do in their lives. And while it might sound kind of basic, when you actually run it through controversial stories that have come up, it almost always works. And so I urge people to get Propaganda Wars, go through this with your family, teach them how to know whether something is real or not real, learn about what's coming our way in the upcoming election, and be prepared because this could be, hopefully it won't be, but could be a crisis event, and people need to be ready for it.
Where can people get the book, Justin?
Well, they can get the book anywhere that books are sold at this point in time. Amazon.com, of course. Go to glensnewbook.com, and that will redirect you right to the perfect place.
I love that he now has a website that is just so easy. glensnewbook.com. Justin, thanks so much for joining us here today.